rose up and harnessed his chariot, and he ordered all the Egyptians to assemble.
What verse you in?
Not one man was left expecting the little ones and the women.
What verse you in, bro?
Verse 22.
All right, we if you want to, we can start it back from the top. We just went live. I just went live.
Okay, yeah, we go back to the top. All right, this is the book of Jasher, chapter 81, starting at verse 1, family. And the children of Israel journeyed from Ramses to Succoth, about 600,000 men on foot, besides the little ones and their wives. Also, a mixed multitude went up with them, and flocks and herds, even much cattle. And the sojourning of the children of Israel, who dwelt in the land of Egypt in hard labor, was 210 years. And at the end of 210 years, the Lord brought forth the children of Israel from Egypt with a strong hand. And the children of Israel traveled from Egypt and from Goshen and from Ramses and encamped in Succoth. On the 15th day, I heard echo.
It's a real bad echo.
Let everybody go on mute. So, all right, verse 5 again. And the children of Israel traveled from Egypt and from Goshen and from Ramses and encamped in Succoth on the 15th day of the first month. And the Egyptians buried all their firstborn whom the Lord had smitten, and all the Egyptians buried their slain for 3 days. And the children of Israel traveled from Succoth and encamped in Etham at the end of the wilderness. And on the third day, after the Egyptians had buried their firstborn, many men rose up from Egypt and went after Israel to make them return to Egypt. For they repented that they had sent the Israelites away from their servitude. And one man said to his neighbor, surely Moses and Aaron spoke to Pharaoh, saying, we will go a 3 days' journey in the wilderness and sacrifice to the Lord our God. Now therefore, let us rise up early in the morning and cause them to return. And it shall be that if they return with us to Egypt, to their masters, then shall we know that there is faith in them. But if they will not return, then will we fight with them and make them come back with great power and a strong hand. And all the nobles of Pharaoh rose up in the morning, and with them about 700,000 men. And they went forth from Egypt on that day, and came to the place where the children of Israel were. And all the Egyptians saw, and behold, Moses and Aaron and all the children of Israel were sitting before Phihorah, eating and drinking and celebrating the feast of the Lord. And all the Egyptians said to the children of Israel, surely you said, we will go a journey for 3 days in the wilderness to sacrifice to our Elohim and return. Now therefore this day makes 5 days since you went. Why do you not return to your masters? And Moses and Aaron answered them, saying, because Yahuwah, our Elohim, has testified in us, saying, you shall no more return to Egypt, but we will betake ourselves to a land flowing with milk and honey, as the Lord our God have sworn to our ancestors to give to us. And when the nobles of Egypt saw that the children of Israel did not hearken to them to return to Egypt, they girded themselves to fight with Israel. And the Lord strengthened the hearts of the children of Israel
Okay.
over the Egyptians, that they gave them a severe beating, and the battle was sore upon the Egyptians. And all the Egyptians fled from before the children of Israel, for many of them perished by the hand of
Let me see.
Israel.
With $10.
And the nobles of Pharaoh went to Egypt and told
I didn't
Pharaoh,
touch
saying, the children of Israel have fled, and will no
it.
more
Just
return to Egypt. And in this manner did Moses and Aaron speak to us. And Pharaoh heard this thing, and his heart and the hearts of all his subjects were turned against Israel, and they repented that they had sent Israel. And all the Egyptians advised Pharaoh to pursue the children of Israel to make them come back to their burdens. And they said, each man to his brother, what is this which we have done, that we have sent Israel from our servitude? And the Lord strengthened the hearts of all the Egyptians to pursue the Israelites. For the Lord desired to overthrow the Egyptians in the Red Sea. And Pharaoh rose up and harnessed his chariot, and he ordered all the Egyptians to assemble. Not one man was left expecting the little ones and the woman. And all the Egyptians went forth with Pharaoh to pursue the children of Israel. And the camp of Egypt was an exceedingly large and heavy camp, about 100,000 men. And the whole of this camp went and pursued the children of Israel to bring them back to Egypt. And they reached them encamping by the Red Sea. And the children of Israel lifted up their eyes and beheld, all the Egyptians pursuing them. And the children of Israel were greatly terrified at them. And the children of Israel cried to Yahuwah. And on account of the Egyptians, the children of Israel divided themselves into four divisions. And they were divided in their opinions, for they were afraid of the Egyptians. And Moses spoke to each of them. The first division was of the children of Reuben, Simeon, and Issachar, and they resolved to cast themselves into the sea, and to cast themselves into the sea, for they were exceedingly afraid of the Egyptians. And Moses said to them, fear not, stand still, and see the salvation of Yahuwah, which he will effect this day for you. The second division was of the children of Zebulun, Benjamin, and Naphtali, and they resolved to go back to Egypt with the Egyptians. And Moses said to them, fear not, for as you have seen the Egyptians this day, so shall you see them no more forever. The third division was of the children of Judah and Joseph, and they resolved to go to meet the Egyptians to fight them. And Moses said to them, stand in your places, for Yahweh will fight for you, and you shall remain silent. And the fourth division was of the children of Levi, Gad, and Asher. And they resolved to go into the midst of the Egyptians to confound them. And Moses said to them, remain in your stations and fear not. Only call unto Yahweh, that he may save you out of their hands. After this, Moses rose up from amidst the people, and he prayed to Yahweh and said, O Yahweh Elohim of the whole earth, save now thy people, whom thou didst bring forth from Egypt, and let not the Egyptians boast that power and might are theirs. So the Lord said to Moses, why dost thou cry unto me? Speak to the children of Israel, that they shall proceed, and do thou stretch out thy rod upon the sea, and divide it, and the children of Israel shall pass through it. And Moses did so, and he lifted up his rod upon the sea, and divided it, and the waters of the sea were divided it into 12 parts. And the children of Israel passed through on foot with shoes, as a man would pass through a prepared road. I'm gonna read that one again. It's verse 38, book of Jasher, chapter 81, and verse 38. And the waters of the sea were divided, into 12 parts, and the children of Israel passed through on foot with shoes, as a man would pass through on foot through a prepared road. Excuse me. And the Lord manifested to the children of Israel
Read that
his
again.
wonders.
Read that again. Because
Verse
I just struck out something.
38.
Yeah.
And the waters of the sea were divided into 12 parts, and the
Mm-hmm.
children of Israel passed through on foot with shoes, as a man would pass through a prepared road.
So
And the,
that was passing through like a prepared road, just like Jonah was swallowed in the belly of a whale that was already prepared. You feel what I'm saying? So the Lord had already had this all laid out and all planned. I mean, all planned out. This wasn't something that just, that happened by chance or nothing like that. This was things that was already planned out. The road was already mapped out for him, just like the belly of the whale was already, prepared for Jonah. Understand? So, yeah, I just wanted to point that out. But I'll take over reading for you though, bro.
no, I got it.
Cause I'm just saying, cause I know I might be jumping in and out. So
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
so I read for you, and we'll both just do the little edifying. But 39, it says, and the Lord manifested to the children of Israel his wonders in Egypt, and and in the sea by the hand of Moses and Aaron. And when the children of Israel had entered the sea, the Egyptians came after them, and the waters of the sea resumed upon them, meaning it came back. So when the children of Israel went through, see, most of the time we think he just split it in half and they went all on one dry ground, but like it was explaining that it split into 12 parts. You know what I'm saying? And he's saying that, it was like, it was an invisible barrier that was keeping the walls, that was keeping the the waters from enfolding on the children of Israel. You know what I'm saying? So the Egyptians came in after them. So it said, the waters of the sea resumed upon them, and they all sank in the water, and not one man was left excepting Pharaoh. So the only one that survived of the Egyptians was the Pharaoh. It says, who gave thanks to the Lord and believed in him. Therefore, the Lord did not cause him to perish at that time with the Egyptians. So Pharaoh, after all this was said and done, he ended up becoming a believer. You know what I'm saying? He ended up believing on the Lord after he seen, miracles 1 through 10. After he seen his whole army destroyed in the Red Sea, he finally ended up humbling himself and coming over and believing in the Most High, and the Most High spurred him for it. So verse 41, it says, and the Lord ordered an angel to take him from amongst the Egyptians, who cast him upon the land of Nineveh, and he reigned over it for a long time. Soon we were just talking about who was that? Jonah. Jonah, this was the land that Jonah had to go to because they were so wicked that the Lord had to send Jonah there to tell them to repent, or else destruction was gonna come upon over them. So verse 42. It says, on that day the Lord saved Israel from the hand of Egypt, and all of Egypt, all of the children of Israel saw the Egyptians had perished, and they beheld the great hand of the Lord and what he had performed in Egypt in the sea. Then sang Moses and the children of Israel this song unto the Lord on the day when the Lord caused the Egyptians to fall before them. It says, and all Israel sang in concert, or meaning together, singing, I will sing to the Lord, for he is greatly exalted. The horse and his rider has he cast into the sea. Behold, it is written in the book of the law of God. And understand, uh a couple of weeks ago, Tuba and them made mention of a video or a documentary that can be watched. I think it's called The Exodus, but they going forth and showing you actual evidence of the Exodus, and they showing you coral reefs that are formed in the shape of a chariot and its wheel. showing you that, these events actually did take place. It's not just some soothing story, or just some some bedtime story or some good fairy tale. Like, these are actual events that has taken place. You know what I'm saying? And they going into the Red Sea, and they finding these coral reefs that has taken the shape of chariots and his wheels. So if y'all get a chance, it's a very good documentary out there. I believe it's called The Exodus. And it goes into actually explaining and bringing forth actual proof and evidence that this thing actually did happen. All right, so verse 45. It says, "After this, the children of Israel proceeded on their journey and encamped in Marah. And the Lord gave the children of Israel statutes and judgments in that place in Marah. And the Lord commanded the children of Israel to walk in all his ways and to serve him. And they journeyed from Marah and came to Elam. And in Elam were 12 springs of water and 70 date trees. And the children of Israel encamped there by the water." Let me ask you this, Levi. Did you start in 80, or did you go back to where he was actually doing the plagues?
Uh, well, yeah, last time we started in 80. Yeah.
All right, so look, what we're gonna do, y'all, we're gonna go back a couple chapters, because I want to actually show y'all him doing the plays. So we gonna go back a little bit. We're gonna start this thing over. Let's start it around. Okay, we're gonna start it in like 70. And we'll start it in 76. And we'll read on. And I just wanted to show y'all, like, we read about the plagues in the scriptures, but then when you get into the book of Jasher, it gives like a more detailed account of the 10 plagues that happened in Egypt, that hit Egypt. So we gonna get a little bit into that and see it from this perspective, because some things in the Bible, it was just giving you a summary of it, but when you get into the book of Jasher, it'll make you think like, dang, like, it's some crazy stuff. So we're gonna start it in Jasher chapter 76. So and it reads, it says, "And Moses, the son of Aram, was still king in the land of Cush in those days." So what ended up happening was, after Moses ended up killing that Egyptian, Moses fled, and he ended up joining the army of the Cushites. And when he ended up joining, he eventually rose up the ranks and became king in the land of Cush, or Ethiopia. You know what I'm saying? So that's what he's saying. He was still king in the land of Ethiopia in these days. It says, "And he prospered in his kingdom, and he conducted the government of the children of Cush in justice and righteousness and integrity. And all the children of Cush loved Moses all the days that he reigned over them, and all the inhabitants of the land were greatly afraid of him. And in the 40th year of his reign, in the reign of Moses over Cush, Moses was sitting on the royal throne, while Adoniah, the queen, was before him, and all the nobles were sitting around him. And Adoniah, the queen, said before the king and the princes, 'What is this thing which you, the children of Cush, have done for this long time? Surely you know that for 40 years that this man has reigned over Cush, he has not approached me, nor has he served the gods of of the children of Cush.'" So what she's saying is, Moses did not one time did he sleep with her, nor did he bow down to any of the children of Cush, because he was an avid believer of the Most High. You know, just because Moses grew up up under the tutelage of the Egyptians, he still very well knew who the Most High was. You know what I'm saying? And he never once bowed the knee to any gods or anything like that. So that's what she's saying. Now, one time did he approach me, or or anything like that, or did he bow down to our God? Now, verse 6 it says, "Now therefore hear, O children of Cush, and let this man no more reign over you, as he is not our flesh. Behold, Monarchius, my son, is grown up. Let him reign over you. For it is better for you to serve the son of your Lord than to serve a stranger, slave of the king of Egypt." And all the people and nobles of the children of Cush heard the words which Adonijah, no, Adoniah, the queen had spoken in their ears. And all the people were preparing until the evening. In the morning they rose up early and made, I believe that's Monarchus king over them. And all the children of Cush were afraid to stretch forth their hand against Moses, for the Lord was with him. And the children of Cush remembered the oath which they had sworn unto Moses. Therefore they did no harm to him. But the children of Cush gave many presents to Moses, and sent him forth with great honor. So Moses went forth from the land of Cush and went home and ceased to reign over Cush. Hold on, y'all, one second. Let's do it. I was ready to do it. Okay, my bad. I ain't trying to argue with you. I was just trying to see what story you was going to. Because I was going to tell you to give me one of them ice mountain things. Get a case of water and an ice mountain. The little thing, yeah. Okay. All right, my bad, y'all. It says verse 12. So Moses went forth from the land of Cush and went home and ceased to reign over Cush. And Moses was 66 years old when he went out of the land of Cush. For the thing was from the Lord, for the period had arrived which he had appointed him in the days of old to bring forth Israel from the affliction of the children of Ham. See, and understanding that Moses, it was always prophesied that Moses was going to bring forth the children of Israel, and even the children of Israel knew it. Moses' mother, father, his sister, and his brother all knew that he was going to redeem them out of the hand of the Egyptians. Well, the Lord was going to redeem them through Moses from the Egyptians. So this was something that was already circulating as prophecy. It says, so Moses went to Midian, for he was afraid to return to Egypt on account of Pharaoh, and he went and sat at a well of water in Midian. And the seven daughters of Ruel the Midianite went out to feed their father's flock. And they came to the well and drew water to water their father's flock. So the shepherds of Midian came and drove them away, and Moses rose up and helped them and watered the flock. And they came home to their father Ruel and told him what Moses did for them. And they said, an Egyptian man has delivered us from the hands of the shepherds. He drew up water for us and watered the flock. And Ruel said to his daughters, and where is he? Wherefore have ye left the man? And Ruel sent forth him and fetched him and brought him home, and he ate bread with them. And Moses related to Ruel that he had fled from Egypt, and that he reigned 40 years over Cush, and that they afterwards had taken the government from him and had sent him away in peace with honor and presents. And when Ruel had heard the words of Moses, Ruel said within himself, I will put this man into the prison house, whereby shall conciliate with the children of Cush, for he has fled from them. So understand Ruel thinking that, Moses might be a prisoner or something. So he telling himself that he gonna put him within a prison, and first he gonna holler at the children of Ruel and see the children of Cush and see what's up. But Levi, take over for me real fast, bro. You hear me?
Yeah. Where you at, bro?
I'm in Jasher. I believe it's 67 and 23.
What verse? My bad.
23.
Okay, 23. And they took and put him into the prison house. And Moses was in the prison 10 years. And whilst Moses was in the prison house, Zipporah, the daughter of Ruel, took pity over him and supported him with bread and water all the time. And all the children of Israel were yet in the land of Egypt, serving the Egyptians in all manner of hard work. And the hand of Egypt continued in severity over the children of Israel in those days. At that time, the Lord smote Pharaoh, king of Egypt, and he afflicted with the plague of leprosy from the sole of his foot to the crown of his head, owning, owing to the cruel treatment of the children of Israel was this plague at that time from the Lord upon Pharaoh, king of Egypt. For the Lord had hearkened to the prayer of his people, the children of Israel, and their cry reached him on account of their hard work. Still, his anger did not turn from them, and the hand of Pharaoh was still stretched out against the children of Israel. And Pharaoh hardened his neck before the Lord, and he increased his yoke over the children of Israel, and embittered their lives with all manner of hard work. And when the Lord had inflicted the plague upon Pharaoh, king of Egypt, he asked his wise men and sorcerers to cure him. And his wise men and sorcerers said unto him, that if the blood of the little children were put into the womb, he would be healed. And Pharaoh hearkened to them, and sent his ministers to Goshen, to the children of Israel, to take their little children.
All right, where
And
we at, Levi?
Pharaoh's ministers, huh?
Yeah, where we at?
We in verse 31.
Okay, I'm back. All right, you keep
Okay.
going.
And Pharaoh's ministers went and took the infants of the children of Israel from the bosom of their mothers by force. And
So
they
this talking
brought them,
about when they was killing the children, when they was taking the boys and killing them.
yeah, when he had most I just gave the plague of leprosy up on Pharaoh. And so he going to his magicians and the sorcerers, asking them how he can get healed. And they said, if you put the blood of some little children into the wounds, you'll be healed.
Okay, I see what you're saying.
So verse 31 again. And Pharaoh's ministers went and took the infants of the children of Israel from the bosoms of their mothers by force. And they brought them to Pharaoh daily, a child each day, and the physicians killed them and applied them to the plague. Thus did they all the days, and the number of the children which Pharaoh slew was 375.
How many was it?
375.
So you see that? So he slayed 375 infants. You know what I'm saying? Just to heal his own self. Instead of just going to the Most High and doing it, you know what I'm saying? They thought they could slay the blood of the innocent and do it. So come on,
Man, that's
take
sick.
over again for me, Levi. I'll be right back. My bad.
Okay. Yes. And that's for a whole year. So he had that leprosy for a whole year. But the Lord hearkened not to the physicians of the king of Egypt, and the plague went on increasingly mightily. And Pharaoh was 10 years afflicted with that plague. Still, the heart of Pharaoh was more hardened against the children of Israel. Wow, so he was plagued with it for 10 years. Wow, that's heavy.
That's a long time.
Right, right. And at the end of 10 years, the Lord continued to afflict Pharaoh with destructive plagues. And the Lord smote him with a bad tumor and sickness at the stomach. And that plague turned into a severe boil. At that time, the two ministers of Pharaoh came from the land of Goshen, where all the children of Israel were, and went to the house of Pharaoh and said to him, We have seen the children of Israel slacking in their work and negligent in their labor. And when Pharaoh heard of the words of his ministers, his anger, his anger was kindled against the children of Israel exceedingly, for he was greatly grieved at his bodily pain. And he answered and said, now that the children of Israel know that I am ill, they turn and scoff at us. Now therefore harness my chariots for me, and I will betake myself to Goshen, and I will see the scoff of the children of Israel with which they are deriding me. So his servants harnessed the chariots for him, and they took and made him ride upon a horse, for he was not able to ride of himself. And he took with him 10 horsemen and 10 footmen, and went to the children of Israel to Goshen. And when they had come to the border of Egypt, the king's horse passed into a narrow place, elevated in the hollow part of the vineyard, fenced on both sides, the low plain country being on the other side. And the horses ran rapidly in that place and pressed each other, and the other horses pressed the king's horse. And the king's horse fell into the low plain, whilst the king was riding upon it. And when he fell, the chariot turned over the king's face, and the horse lay upon the king. And the king cried out, for his flesh was very sore, and the flesh of the king was torn from him, and his bones were broken, and he could not ride, for this thing was from the Lord to him. For the Lord had heard the cries of his people, the children of Israel, and their affliction. And his servants cried him, excuse me, and his servants carried him upon their shoulders, a little at a time, and they brought him back to Egypt. And the horsemen who were with him came also back to Egypt. So man, Moses made the whole chariot topple over with the horses, and now Pharaoh bones broken because he didn't got trampled on by, or not trampled on, he got laid on by the horse. So now Pharaoh bones broken, they gotta carry him. Like how they was carrying P. Diddy in them skits. I was just playing. But nah, they
Ah,
had to
stop it. No
carry.
cheesecake. We don't get cheesecakes over here, player.
Yeah, yeah,
You stupid.
but you see they said they had to carry him on the shoulders.
Yep. Cambodian breast milk.
Well, that's crazy, man. Stay crazy. But you see how going against the Most High be bad for you? He ain't got hit with that plague for 10 years. Now he got his bones broken. Man, he had to straight go. It took all that, and he still was on some. Nah, I'm cool. We gonna keep them. They my servants. I'm still God. He still had that pride, man. That's crazy. All right, y'all. What was he at? Verse 47. And they placed him in his bed, and the king knew that his end was come to die. So, uh, apprehended, appre, appre, apprehended. My bad, I'm probably butchering her name. The queen, his wife, came and cried before the king, and the king wept a great weeping with her. And all his nobles and servants came on that day, and saw the king in that affliction, and wept a great weeping with him. And the princes of the king and all his counselors advised the king to cause one to reign in his stead in the land, whomsoever he should choose from his sons. And the king had 3 sons and 2 daughters, which Aprenet, the queen, his wife, had born to him, besides the king's children of concubines. And these were their names: the firstborn, Orthari; the second, Ak- Addakim; and the third, uh, Morion. And their sisters, the name of the elder, Bathia, and the other, Akuzi. And or three, the firstborn of the king was an idiot. Man, he was an idiot. Precip- Precipitate and harried in his words. But Adikam was a cunning and wise man, and knowing in all the wisdom of Egypt, but of unseemly aspect, thick in flesh, and very short in stature. His height was 1 cubit. And when the king saw Adikam, his son, intelligent and wise in all things, the king resolved that he should be king in his stead after his death. And he took for his for him a wife, uh uh Giduda, 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 daughter of Abelot. And he was 10 years old, and she bore unto him 4 sons. And he afterwards went and took 3 wives, and begat 8 sons and 3 daughters. And the disorder greatly prevailed over the king, and his flesh stank like the flesh of a carcass cast upon the field in summertime, during the heat of the sun. Yeah, that Pharaoh was stanking. Verse 58. And when the king saw that his sickness had greatly strengthened itself over him, he ordered his son Adikam to be brought to him, and they made him king over the land in his place. And at the end of 3 years, the king died in shame, disgrace, and disgust. And his servants carried him and buried him in the sepulchre of the kings of Egypt in Zoan, Mizraim. But they embalmed him not as was usual with kings, for his flesh was putrid, and they could not approach to embalm him on account of the stench. So they buried him in haste. For this evil was from the Lord to him. For the Lord had requited him for the evil which in his days he had done to Israel. And he died with terror and with shame. And his son Adikam reigned in his place. They had a good. So the king of Pharaoh had died, man. He died a horrible death. It was so bad they couldn't even do they normal rituals of embalming the the,
That boy was
the,
funky.
the skin, because yeah, he was clowning so much because of the
Mm.
morals that the Most High had played him with. So I think he said, what was that, 3 years, and then hey, Pharaoh had to get up out of there. But yeah, to have his son. So now we dealing with his son, Adikam, Adikam. So remember, he only 1 cubics. Oh, he was a real short one. He was a short he. So when the book of Jasher, chapter 77, family, it says Adikam was 20 years old when he reigned over Egypt. He reigned 4 years in the 260 years of Israel's going down to Egypt. Did Adikam reign over Egypt? But he continued not so long in his reign over Egypt as his fathers had continued their reigns. For Melo, his fathers reigned 94 years in Egypt, but he was 10 years sick and died, for he had been wicked before Yahweh. And all the Egyptians called the name of Adikam Pharaoh like the name of his fathers, as was their custom to do in Egypt. And all the wise men of Pharaoh called the name of Adikam Ahuz. For short is called Ahuz in the Egyptian language. And Adikam was exceedingly ugly, and he was a cubit and a span, and he had a great beard which reached to the soles of his feet. And Pharaoh sat upon his father's throne to reign over Egypt, and he conducted the government of Egypt in his wisdom. And whilst he reigned, he exceeded his father and all the preceding kings in wickedness, and he increased his yoke over the children of Israel. So he kept a heavy yoke of bondage on us. And he went with his servants to Goshen to the children of Israel. And he strengthened the labor over them. And he said unto them, complete your work each day's task, and let not your hands slacken from our work from this day forward, as you did in the days of my father. And he placed officers over them from amongst the children of Israel. And over these officers he placed taskmasters from amongst his servants. And he placed over them a measure of bricks for them to do according to that number, day by day. And he turned back and went to Egypt. At that time, the taskmasters of Pharaoh ordered the officers of the children of Israel according to the command of Pharaoh, saying, thus says Pharaoh, do your work each day and finish your task, and observe the daily measure of bricks. Diminish not anything. And it shall come to pass that if you are deficient in your daily bricks, I will put your young children in their stead. So they was gonna put the brick right there where your what they was gonna put a child right there where the brick was supposed to be if you diminish from your work.
Mm.
So that's where it's saying right there. He'll put the children. We will put your young children in their stead. They'll come into the home, even if it's a suckling child. They'll take them off the titty and go and place it right there where that brick's supposed to be. That's how cruel they was to our people, man. The cruelest. Verse 15. And the taskmasters of Egypt did so in those days as Pharaoh had ordered them. And whenever any defiancy was found in the children of Israel, measure of their daily bricks, the taskmasters of Pharaoh would go to the wives of the children of Israel and take infants of the children of Israel to the number of bricks deficient. They would take them by force from their mothers' laps and put them in the building instead of the bricks, whilst their fathers and mothers were crying over them and weeping when they heard the weeping voices of their infants in the wall of the buildings. And the taskmasters prevailed over Israel, that the Israelites should place their children in the building, so that a man placed his son in the wall and put mortar over him, whilst his eyes wept over him, and his tears ran down upon his child. And the taskmasters of Egypt did so to the babes of Israel for many days, and no one pitied or had compassion over the babes of the children of Israel. They ain't had no compassion over our babies, man. That's why our brother Johnny be like, don't be having no compassion over them. Or Amos be like, man, it be hard for me to have compassion over them because how they be having, they know the history of what they did to us, man. How they ain't even weep for us. They ain't even, how we got some heathens that'll do that for us, man. They weren't even doing that at that time, man. It was hard. So, man, just imagine. I know I would have had to die, boy. That would have had to kill me, bro. I would have went been one of them road Negroes like, nah, man. Y'all just gonna have to kill me. Get that. Uh, verse 20. And the number of all the children killed in the building was 270. Some whom they had built upon instead of the bricks, which had been left uh deficient by their fathers, and some whom they had drawn out dead from the building. And the labor imposed upon the children of Israel in the days of Adikam exceeded in hardship that which they performed in the days of his father. And the children of Israel sighed every day on account of their heavy work, for they had said to themselves, behold, when Pharaoh shall die, his son will rise up and lighten our work. But they increased the latter work more than the former. And the children of Israel sighed at this, and their cry extended to God on account of their labor. And Yah heard the voice of the children of Israel and their cry in those days. And Yah remembered to them his covenant which he had made with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And God saw the burden of the children of Israel and their heavy work in those days, and he determined to deliver them. And Moses, the son of Amram, was still confined in the dungeon in those days, in the house of Ruel, the Midianite, and Zipporah, the daughter of Ruel, did support him with food secretly day by day. And Moses was confined in the dungeon in the house of Ruel for 10 years. And at the end of 10 years, which was the first year of the reign of Pharaoh over Egypt in the place of his father, Zipporah said to her father Ruel, no person inquires or seeks after the Hebrew man, whom thou didst bind in prison now 10 years. Now, therefore, if it seem good in thy sight, let us send and see whether he is living or dead. But her father knew not that she had supported him. And Ruel, her father, answered and said to her, has ever such a thing happened that a man should be shut up in a prison without food for 10 years?
All right, my
That he
bad, Levi.
should.
I'm back. I'm back. Where we at?
Okay. Uh, we in chapter 77, chapter 77, and verse 26. I mean,
Like 26. You catch me up to
no,
speed real
verse
fast.
30.
Verse
I mean,
30.
verse 30. Yeah.
Uh, Catch me up to speed.
Uh, so it's explaining how Pharaoh had caught that plague and got ended up getting sick to the point where he had to die, and
So
now
this a
his
new
son
pharaoh we dealing
Adikam
with now.
is in rule.
So this a new pharaoh we dealing with, not the pharaoh
Yeah,
that
this
Moses was
Mhm.
under.
right, yeah. This is a new Pharaoh,
Hmm.
and so now we seeing back to going back to Moses because Moses was still in the dungeon, but remember he was being supported by Zipporah, Ruel's daughter.
Hmm.
And so now she coming to him like, "Hey, can we see if that man's still alive? Was he dead after 10 years? Cause ain't nobody asked about him. Ain't nobody coming for him."
Hmm.
And she was just saying like, is it possible that a man should be able to stay alive if he ain't been able to eat for ten years? Like, come on now, he got to be dead. He probably down there stinking like Lincoln.
Thinking like Lincoln. Oh, for
Yeah. So yeah, we just going over the conversation with
all right, cool.
and the father. Uh, and then also the taskmasters they putting it on heavy up on the Israelites, and it was just explaining to how if they diminish their labor, then they would have to use their children, the children, the Israelite children, as as bricks, and they place them right there. And it was so severe, ain't nobody even had no compassion on them. You know what
Right.
I'm
So
saying?
right. So see, this was what was doing. See, this how you know it ain't about skin color, y'all, because these was folks that was blacker than us doing the same thing or worse than what the white man did to us. See, the white man ain't never make us use our children as bricks. You know what I'm saying? Everything that the white man he learned by studying what the Egyptians did to us. You know what I'm saying? So this ain't about skin color or anything like that. This all boils down to what's right and what's wrong. You know what I'm saying? And them oppressing us like that is furthering the affliction. You having them putting their babies as bricks, that's some cruel stuff. But all right, come on, let's go ahead and
Yeah, man. Literally had tears in their eyes, man, putting the mortar over they child. You know what I'm saying? As they crying. You
mm,
know what I'm saying? Like that's just horrible. And I think it said it was like 270 of them
mm.
that was used. So you know what I'm saying? Definitely adding that to my prayers. You know what I'm saying? So we was at verse. I read verse 26 again. And Moses, the son of Amram, was still confined in the dungeon in those days in the house of Ruel, the Midianite. And Zipporah, the daughter of Ruel, did support him with food secretly day by day. And Moses was confined in a dungeon in the house of Ruel for 10 years. And at the end of 10 years, which was the first year of the reign of Pharaoh over Egypt, in the place of his father, Zipporah said to her father Ruel, no person inquires or seeks after the Hebrew man, whom thou didst bind in prison now 10 years. Now therefore, if it seem good in thy sight, let us send and see whether he is living or dead. But her father knew not that she had supported him.
Mm,
And Ruel her father answered and said to her, has ever such a thing happened, that a man should be shut up in prison without food for 10 years, and that he should live? And Zipporah answered her father, saying, surely thou hast heard that the God of the Hebrews is great and awful, and does wonders for them at all times. He it was who delivered Abraham from Ur of the Chaldees, and
mm.
Isaac from the sword of his father.
So you see that? So she clearly professing to know something about the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, because you got to remember, see, these are descendants of Abraham, Isaac. I mean, of Abraham as well. It come from his second wife Keturah after Sarah had died, or his third wife Keturah after Sarah had passed away. He took a wife named Keturah when you get into Genesis the 25th chapter, and she had a son named Midian. And this who Ruel come from. Ruel and Zipporah, they come from Midian, and they are called the Midianites. So now she's speaking, and she said, and Zipporah answered her father, surely thou hast heard that the God of the Hebrews is a great and awful, and does wonders for them at all times. So she know and understand this, you know what I'm saying, partly because she was a descendant of Abraham herself. Come on. So they was Hebrews from that perspective, because they was descendants of Abraham. But all right, come on, let's keep going.
And Isaac from the sword of his father, and Jacob from the angel of the Lord, who wrestled with him at the ford of Jabbok. Also with this man has he done many things. He delivered him from the river in Egypt, and from the sword of Pharaoh, and from the children of Cush. So also can he deliver him from a famine and make him live.
Absolutely, come on.
And the thing seemed good in the sight of Ruel, and he did according to the word of his daughter, and sent to the dungeon to ascertain what became of Moses.
Right, and a certain just means to know what became of Moses, to figure it out, to see. Come on.
And he saw and beheld the man Moses was, living in the dungeon,
Right, so
standing upon his feet.
Moses had been in the dungeon for 10 years on a free case. Moses ain't did nothing to deserve to be thrown into prison, but he was in there for 10 years. So now he come down and he see Moses still living, standing up on his feet, praising and praying to the Elohim of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Come on.
Praising and praying to the Elohim of his ancestors. And Ruel commanded Moses to be brought out of the dungeon. So they shaved him, and he changed his prison garments and ate bread. And afterward, Moses went into the garden of Ruel, which was behind the house, and he there prayed to the Lord his God, who had done mighty wonders for him.
Mhm.
And it was that whilst he prayed, he looked opposite to him, and behold, a sapphire stick was placed in the ground.
So now he's saying a sapphire stick. And what we gonna come to find out is this same sapphire stick that he see was the same one that he was using to do all the miracles in the land of Egypt. It was a sapphire stick. So when you if you want to get a picture of how it look, just Google how sapphire look, and you will get a perfect understanding on what it looked like. So when you look up sapphire, in most well and everything that I see is blue. It looked like a deep blue. It looked like the ocean. You know, if you ever seen the movie The Titanic, that that necklace that she had in her hand, that's what it looked like. A real deep blue type of color. And that's what he's saying this stick looked like. It was a sapphire stick, was placed in the garden, was placed in the garden, which was planted in the midst of the garden. Well, was placed in the ground in the midst of the garden. So, all right, come on, keep going.
Verse 40. And he approached the stick, and he looked, and behold, the name of Yahweh, Elohim of hosts, was engraven thereon, written and developed upon the stick. And he read it, and stretched forth his hand, and he plucked it like a forest tree from the thicket,
Mhm.
and the stick was in his hand. And this is the stick with which all the works of our Elohim were performed,
Which what?
which all the works of our Elohim were performed.
So this was the stick that Moses used when he went to Egypt and was performing all the miracles. And now it's going to give you a little bit of a history on this stick. You know what I'm saying? And this what the Bible don't go into like the actual details. It just told you that he had a staff in his hand, but it didn't tell you that it was a special staff. It was sapphire. It was blue like the ocean. You know what I'm saying? And that it had the name of the Lord of hosts written on it. And understand when it's talking about the Lord of hosts, it's not talking about the Father, it's talking about the Messiah. Because the Messiah said when he met Joshua in the book of Joshua chapter 5 verse 19 15 14 and 15, I'm sorry, that he said he was the captain of the host of the Lord's army. So that's whose name was written on this stick. So come on.
After he had created heaven and earth, and all of the host of them, seas, rivers, and all of their fishes. And when God had driven Adam from the Garden of Eden, he took the stick in his hand and went and tilled the ground from which he was taken.
So you see that? So this was the same stick. Adam took this stick out of the Garden of Eden. This how far back this stick goes that Moses just found in the Garden of Ruel. It was all the way back in the Garden of Eden. Come on.
And the stick came down to Noah,
Came down to who?
to Noah,
So the stick was passed all the way from Adam all the way down to Noah. Come on.
and was given to Shem
Uh-huh.
and his descendants until it came into the hand of Abraham.
So until it came into the hand of Abraham. So it was passed down from generation to generation. And if I had to make a bet, I'm pretty sure it went from Adam to Seth, from Seth to his son. So when you get into that Genesis the chapter 5 to the Melchizedek priest line, I'm pretty sure it was passed from each one of them individuals because Noah and Shem were both a part of this Melchizedek priest line, and then it passed from Shem to Abraham. So it was by no coincidence that it came down from to Moses, but this same stick has been around, or it came out of the Garden of Eden. And now you starting to see and understand, well, how can it be a stick and it's made of sapphire? Well, shoot, now we have to start getting into what sticks look like in the Garden of Eden, if this where it came from. Said it's sapphire. So what did the Garden of Eden look like? It had to be something that we can't even imagine if a stick is made of sapphire stone, a sapphire, or it looked like sapphire. So come on, let's keep going.
And when Abraham had given all he had to his son Isaac, he also gave to him this stick.
Mm.
And when Jacob had fled to Paddan Aram, he took it into his hand. And when he returned to his father, he had not left it behind him. Also, when he went down to Egypt, he took it into his hand and gave it to Joseph, one portion above his brethren.
Yeah.
For Jacob had taken it by force from his brother Esau.
Okay. Come on.
And after the death of Joseph, The nobles of Egypt came into the house of Joseph, and the stick came into the hand of Ruel the
So
Midianite.
this right. So this how I got into his garden because after Joseph died, like it said, the Egyptians came in and took it out the house of Joseph, and somehow it ended up in the hands of Ruel the Midianite. And again, when you go into the book of Genesis chapter 25, again Midian was a descendant or a son of Abraham. Matter of fact, let me pull that up real fast. Give me 1 second. Yeah, Midian was a descendant of Abraham. Yeah, so when you read, excuse me,
The,
thank you. So when you read Genesis chapter 25, verse 1, it says, Then again Abraham took a wife, and her name was Keturah, and she bare him Zimran, and Jokshan, and Medan, and Midian. So again, Midian was a descendant of Abraham. It was one of his sons. You know what I'm saying? So this is who Ruel descends from, one of the sons of Abraham through Keturah. So all right, let's get back to it. Jasher chapter 77, verse 48.
and after the death of Joseph, the nobles of Egypt came into the house of Joseph, and the stick came into the hand of Ruel the Midianite. And when he went out of Egypt, he took it in his hand and planted it in his garden. And all the mighty men of the Kenites tried to pluck it when they endeavored to get Zipporah his daughter, but they were unsuccessful. So that stick remained planted in the garden of Ruel until he came.
Read that again.
So that stick remained planted in the garden of Ruel until he came who had a right to it and took it.
Right. So Moses had the right to it because, like it said in verse 49, it said, All the mighty men of the Kenites tried to pluck it when they endeavored to get Zipporah, the daughter, his daughter, but they were unsuccessful. So that the stick remained planted in the garden of Ruel until till he came who had a right to it and took it. So Moses had it was Moses' right to have his stick. You know what I'm saying? That's the reason that he was able to pluck it from the ground. So come on.
Verse 51. And when Ruel saw the stick in the hand of Moses, he wondered at it, and he gave him his daughter Zipporah for a wife. Chapter 78. At that time died Canaan, son of Akbar, king of Edom, and was buried in his house in the land of Edom. Am I getting we all on mute, y'all? Kind of hearing the echo. Verse 2. And after his death, the children of Esau sent to the land of Edom, and took from there a man who was in Edom, whose name was Hadad, and they made him king over them in the place of Baal Canaan, their king. And Hadad reigned over the children of Edom 48 years. And when he reigned, he resolved to fight against the children of Moab, to bring them under the power of the children of Esau, as they were before. But he was not able, because the children of Moab heard this thing, and they rose up and hastened to elect a king over them from amongst their brethren. And they afterward gathered together a great people and sent to the children of Ammon, their brethren, for help to fight against Hadad, king of Edom. And Hadad heard the thing which the children of Moab had done, and was greatly afraid of them, and refrained from fighting against them. In those days, Moses, the son of Amram, in Midian, took Zipporah, the daughter of Ruel, the Midianite, for a wife. And Zipporah walked in the ways of the daughters of Jacob. She was nothing short of righteousness of Sarah, Rebekah, Rachel, and Leah. And Zipporah conceived and bare a son, and he called his name Gershom. For he said, I was a stranger in a foreign land, but he circumcised not his foreskin at the command of Ruel, his father in law. And she conceived again and bare a son, but circumcised his foreskin and called his name Eliezer, Eliezer. For Moses said, because of God of my fathers was my help, and delivered me from the sword of Pharaoh. And Pharaoh, king of Egypt, greatly increased the labor of the children of Israel in those days, and continued to make his yoke heavier upon the children of Israel. And he ordered a proclamation to be made in Egypt, saying, give no more straw to the people to make bricks with. Let them go and gather themselves straw as they can find it. Also, the tale of bricks which they shall make, let them give each day and diminish nothing from them. And for they are idle in their work. And the children of Israel heard this, and they mourned and sighed, and they cried unto Yahweh on account of the bitterness of their souls. And the Lord heard the cries of the children of Israel, and saw the oppression with which the Egyptians oppressed them. And the Lord was jealous of his people and his inheritance, and heard their voice, and he resolved to take them out of the affliction of Egypt, to give them the land of Canaan for a possession. All right, so we in chapter 79, family. Book of Joshua, chapter 79, verse 1. And in those days, Moses was feeding the flock of Ruel the Midianite, his father-in-law, beyond the wilderness of Sin. And the stick which he took from his father-in-law was in his hand. And it came to pass one day that a kid of the goats strayed from the flock, and Moses pursued it. And it came to a mountain of God, to Horeb. And when he came to Horeb, the Lord appeared there unto him in the bush, and he found the bush burning with fire, but the fire had no power over the bush to consume it. And Moses was greatly astonished at this sight, wherefore the bush was not consumed. And he approached to see this mighty thing. And the Lord called unto Moses out of the fire, and commanded him to go down to Egypt, to Pharaoh, king of Egypt, to send the children of Israel from his service. And the Lord said unto Moses, go, return to Egypt, for all those men who sought thy life are dead. And thou shalt speak unto Pharaoh to send forth the children of Israel from his land. And the Lord showed him to do signs and wonders in Egypt before the eyes of Pharaoh and the eyes of his subjects, in order that they might believe that the Lord had sent him. And Moses hearkened to all that the Lord had commanded him. And he returned to his father-in-law and told him the thing. And Ruel said to him, go in shalom. And Moses rose up to go to Egypt. And he took his wife and sons with him. And he was at an inn in the road. And the angel of the Lord came down and sought an occasion against him. And he wished to kill him on account of his firstborn, because he had not circumcised him, and had transgressed the covenant which the Lord had made with Abraham. For Moses had hearkened to the words of his father-in-law, which he had spoken to him, not to circumcise his firstborn son. Therefore, therefore he circumcised him not. Excuse me. And Zipporah saw the angel of the Lord seeking an occasion against Moses, and she knew that this thing was owing to his not having circumcised her son Gershom. And Zipporah hastened and took of the sharp rock stones that were there, and she circumcised her son, and delivered her husband and her son from the hand of the angel of the Lord. And Aaron, the son of Amram, the brother of Moses, was in Egypt, walking at the riverside on that day. And the Lord appeared to him in that place. And he said to him, go now towards Moses in the wilderness, And he went and met him in the mountain of God, and he kissed him. And Aaron lifted up his eyes and saw Zipporah, the wife of Moses, and her children. And he said unto Moses, who are these unto thee? And Moses said unto him, they are my wife and sons, which Yah gave to me in Midian. And the thing grieved Aaron on account of the woman and her children. And Aaron said to Moses, send away the woman and her children, that they may go to her father's house. And Moses hearkened to the words of Aaron, and did so. And Zipporah returned with her children, and they went to the house of Ruel, and remained there until the time arrived when the Lord had visited his people, and brought them forth from Egypt, from the hand at Pharaoh. And Moses and Aaron came to Egypt, to the community of the children of Israel, and they spoke to them all the words of the Lord. And the people rejoiced an exceedingly great rejoicing. And Moses and Aaron rose up early on the next day, and they went to the house of Pharaoh, and they took in their hands the stick of God. And when they came to the king's gate, two young lions were confined there with iron instruments, and no person went out or came in from before them, unless those whom the king ordered to come. When the conjurers came and withdrew the lions by their incantations, and this brought them to the king. And Moses hastened and lifted up the stick upon the lions, and he loosed them. And Moses and Aaron came into the king's house. The lions also came with them in joy. They followed them and rejoiced as a dog rejoices over his masters when he comes from the field. And when Pharaoh saw this thing, he was astonished at it, and he was greatly terrified at the report, for their appearance was like the appearance of the children of Yah. And Pharaoh said to Moses, what do you require? And they answered him, saying, the Lord God of the Hebrews has sent us to thee to say, send forth my people that they may serve me. And when Pharaoh heard their words, he was greatly terrified before them. And he said to them, go today and come back to me tomorrow. And they did according to the word of the king. And when they had gone, Pharaoh sent for Balaam, the magician, and to Jannes and Jambres his sons, and to all the magicians and conjurers and counselors which belonged to the king. And they all came and sat before the king. And the king told them all the words which Moses and his brother Aaron had spoken to him. And the magician said to the king, but how came the man? Hold on, let me read that verse over again. Verse 28. And the king told them all the words which Moses and his brothers Aaron had spoken to him. And the magician said to the king, but how came the man to thee on account of the lions which were confined at the gate? And the king said, because they lifted up their rod against the lions and loosed them, and came to me. And the lions also rejoiced at them, as a dog rejoices to meet his masters. And Balaam, the son of
Yeah, but we
Beor,
almost
the
done.
magician, answered the king, saying,
Yeah, you would.
these are none else than magicians like ourselves. Now therefore send for them, and
Say
let
what?
them come, and we will try them. And the king did so. And in the
Wow.
morning Pharaoh sent for Moses and Aaron to come before the king. And they took the rod of Yah,
Right.
and
Yeah, I'm
came
gonna
to
say,
the
yeah, that's
king,
cool. You feel like
and
coming back
spoke
and
to
getting it?
him,
Yeah,
saying,
because I showed them about to
thus said
get some stuff from Walmart.
the Lord God of the Hebrews, send my people that they may serve me.
And I was,
And the king said to them, but who will believe you that you are the messengers of God, and that you come to me by his order? Now therefore give a wonder or a sign in this matter, and then the words which you speak will be
and it's
believed.
like,
And Aaron hastened and threw the rod out of his hand before Pharaoh and before his servants, and the rod turned into a serpent. And the sorcerers saw this, and they cast each man his
You
rod
saying you ain't
upon
got
the
no
ground,
problem if
and they
ain't nothing
became
going on
serpents.
between you and Trey,
And the
then I
serpent
don't
of
have no
Aaron's
problem with
rod
these girls
lifted up
dancing.
his head,
I don't have a problem
his
with the
head,
girls
and
dancing.
opened
But
its
if it's
mouth
something
to
that I
swallow
don't
the
know
rods
about
of
or
the
something that you need to
magicians.
tell me, then I
Swallow.
think you should just tell me
And
now.
Balaam, the magician, answered and said, this thing has been from the days of old, that a serpent should swallow its fellow, and that living things devour each other. Now
But I don't have
therefore,
a problem with Trey.
restore it
I don't
to
have
a
a problem
rod,
with the
as it
man, which
was
I'm
at
knowing you probably
first,
gonna have to pick the
and we
girls
will
up and drop them
also
off. Huh?
restore our
So
rods as they were at
I
first.
don't have a problem with
And
that.
if
You know
thy
what I'm saying?
rod
I don't
shall
have a problem
swallow
with that. If you
our
saying that it
rods,
ain't nothing going
then
on,
shall we
I'ma just
know that
leave
the
it at
Spirit
it's nothing
of
going on.
God is in thee.
So
And if
it ain't no,
not,
I don't have a
thou
problem with
art
that.
only an artificer,
But yeah, by the time
like unto ourselves. And Aaron hastened and
okay, cool.
stretched forth his hand and caught hold of the serpent's tail, and it became a rod in his hand. And the sorcerers did the like with their rods, and they got hold each man of the tail of his serpent, and they became rods as at first. And when they were restored to rods, the rod of Aaron swallowed up their rods. And when the king saw this thing, he ordered the book of records that related to the kings of Egypt to be brought. And they brought the book of records, the chronicles of the kings of Egypt, in which all the idols of Egypt were inscribed.
All the wood
But
of Egypt were inscribed.
all the idols of Egypt were inscribed.
Mm-hmm.
For they thought of finding therein the name of Jehovah or Yahweh, but they found it not. And Pharaoh said to Moses and Aaron, behold, I have not found the name of your power written in this book, and his name I know not.
Absolutely.
And the counselors and wise men answered the king, we have heard that the Elohim of the Hebrews is a son of the wise, the son of a ancient kings.
So you see that? So they trying to reduce our Elohim to a man, the son of a king, and not giving him his proper title, which is the God of the heavens and the earth. You know what I'm saying? And Pharaoh thinking, oh well, I ain't heard the name of your God because Pharaoh think that he God. Pharaoh think that the sun god Ra empowered him to be God on earth, but it wasn't so. He finna find out real quick that who the real power of the heaven and earth is, and who set men up on earth to be kings and to rule as kings on the earth. Come on.
And Pharaoh turned to Moses and Aaron and said to them, I know not the Lord whom you have declared, neither will I send his people. And they answered and said to the king, the Lord God of gods is his name, and he proclaimed his name over us from the days of our ancestors, and sent us, saying, go to the Pharaoh and say unto him, send my people that they may serve me.
Mhm.
Now therefore send us, that we may take a journey for 3 days in the wilderness, and there may sacrifice to him. For from the days of our going down to Egypt, he has not taken from our hands either burnt offering, oblation, or sacrifice.
Mhm.
And if thou wilt not send us, his anger will be kindled against thee, and
Yeah.
he will smite Egypt either with the plague or with the sword.
Yeah.
And Pharaoh said to them, tell me now his power and his might. And they said to him, he created the heavens and the earth, the seas and all their fishes. He formed the light, created the darkness, caused rain upon the earth, and watered it, and made the herbage and grass to sprout. He created man and beasts and the animals of the forest, the birds of the air and the fish of the sea. And by his mouth they live and die. Surely he created thee in thy mother's womb, and put into thee the breath of life, and reared thee and placed thee upon the royal throne of Egypt. and he will take thy breath and soul from thee, and return thee to the ground whence thou wast taken. And the anger of the king was kindled at their words,
It was
and he
kindled at what?
at their words.
Right. So he got pissed off at what Moses and Aaron was saying. Come on.
And he said to them, but who amongst all the powers of nations can do this? My river is my own, and I have made it for myself.
So you see that? So he think he God. You know what I'm saying? He think that he the one that can give life and that can take it. That created everything up on it. That created everything in the heavens and the earth. Cause he like, shoot, what God can do this amongst the nations? I my river is my own, or my life is my own, and I have made it for myself. So he think he wake himself up in the morning. You know what I'm saying? He thinking his shit don't stink. Excuse my language, y'all. But he thinking his
Dung, dung.
don't stink. That
Sugar
his
honey
river
iced
don't
tea.
stink. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? So now he questioning them. He pissed off at what they saying because he telling them like shit, there ain't no other God amongst the nations that can do this. I'm my own God. I'm God on earth. Come on.
And he drove them from him, and he ordered the labor upon Israel to be more severe than it was yesterday and before.
Uh-huh.
And Moses and Aaron went out from the king's presence, and they saw the children of Israel in an evil condition, for the taskmasters had made their labor exceedingly heavy. And Moses returned to the Lord and said, why hast thou ill treated thy people? For since I came to speak to Pharaoh, what thou didst send me for, he has exceedingly ill used the children of Israel. And the Lord said to Moses, behold, thou wilt see that with an outstretched hand and heavy plagues, Pharaoh will send the children of Israel from his land. And Moses and Aaron dwelt amongst their brethren, the children of Israel in Egypt. And as for the children of Israel, the Egyptians embittered their lives with the heavy work which they imposed upon them. Uh, in chapter 80, I mean,
We a hold it
we
right there. We getting
yeah,
this
we at the top of the
yeah, we finish it off when we come back next time on Friday, most I will.
okay, all praise to the Most High.
Praises. So yeah, most I will, and we'll finish it off Friday. Yeah.
Yes, yeah. I hope all
Right.
praise to the Father and the Son and glory. Hope that y'all
Praise.
got a little bit more better insight.
Yes, sir, man. I'm over and out. Over and out, Bruce.
All right, all right. Shalom, brewskis.
Um,
Most High be with y'all.